And we're live, Madam Mayor, go ahead. You're on mute, Madam Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this special council meeting of March 29th, 2021 to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln and Chair of today's special council meeting. We are meeting electronically through Zoom during this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast at our YouTube channel. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon treaty territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who called this territory home. I will ask our town clerk to complete a roll call of council so that we can confirm everyone's attendance as we are holding this meeting electronically today and to confirm quorum. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Rajima.
Here. Thank you.
Councillor Russell.
Here.
Councillor Pachariva.
I am here.
Thank you. Councillor Brunet.
Here.
Councillor McPherson.
Here.
Councillor Miklick.
Here.
Councillor Timmers.
Here.
Councillor Reimer.
Here.
And Mayor Easton.
Present.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. In addition, I want to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us today electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Krikopoulos, Director of Finance and Administration and Innovation Lawrence Wagner, Director of Special Projects Kathleen Dale, Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder, Director of Community Services Shannon Mackay, Fire Chief Greg Hudson, Director of Economic Development and Communications Paul Giuliani, Director of Public Works Dave Graham, Deputy Clerk Devan Pripp. IT staff are also in attendance. Moderating and clerking the meeting today, we have our Town Clerk Julie Kirklos. And also joining us this evening, Regional Councillor Foster from Niagara Region and Tom Holinsky, Legal Counsel of Aird and Burles. As this is a virtual meeting, I will ask that we follow some procedures during the electronic meeting. Should there be a connection or a service disruption for the chair or if quorum is lost, the chair and or clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, Deputy Mayor or the Vice Chair will resume the meeting. Once reconnection is achieved, the chair will assume their role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, press the raise hand feature on your video call, and the clerk will track our speakers list today, and then invite you to speak when I open it for comments or questions. Also, when I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover and seconder, the clerk will then call out the vote by reading each member of council's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during this portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you are in support or opposed. Also, when not speaking, please remember to put yourselves on mute. Are there any declarations of interest?
Madam Mayor, we have Councillor Reimer with his hand up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Reimer. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mary Easton. Just a reiteration from Committee of the Whole, March 22nd. 3 items: PW-11-21, PD-23-21, and PD-19-21. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do you have any others? Do you have knowledge of anyone else?
No, I do not, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 5, recognition and achievements. Our next item is to recognize award recipients, customer service and spirit awards, corporate awards for excellence, as well as the 2021 Heroism Award That will be presented by CAO Mike Kokopoulos, and he will also introduce each staff member. Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening to all members of council. I wanted to say this is probably one of my favorite council meetings of the year when I get a chance once or twice a year to kind of speak about staff and to recognize the staff as a result of our corporate awards for excellence. So I will be reading. I do have a lengthy list, so I do apologize in advance to members of council. You'll see a lot of staff here, and I will one by one as I go through the awards introduce everyone. But just a little bit of background on the CAFE Awards, or as they're known as the Corporate Awards for Excellence. They are made up of 3 categories, as the mayor read out: Customer Service and Spirit, CAO's Award for Excellence, and the Heroism Award. It is for colleagues and peers to recognize the excellent work of employees where an individual or team contributes so much that they deserve special recognition. They deserve and celebrate amongst themselves, and they celebrate those employees who have gone above and beyond their work and contributions to the organization. Nominees should exemplify dedication, innovation, teamwork, and respect in what they do and how they serve the community. They create an original idea in many cases, or enhance an existing process, initiative, or program, resulting in a benefit to the workplace or to the town as a whole. So I will start first with our Customer Service and Spirit Award. And this is given to an employee or team who consistently demonstrates superior service to internal or external customers and does so with pride and positive spirit. They are skilled at listening to customers, identifying needs and providing timely service. They're approachable, dedicated, enthusiastic, thorough, competent, and committed to going the extra mile. So first, our 2020 recipients of the award are Lisa Crowley from Public Works. And I'm going to read a little bit about Lisa and her nominee. Some are 2 or 3 pages long, some are a little bit shorter. I will try to take the high points from each of them. But Lisa was nominated. For those of you that don't know Lisa, she has been covering a maternity leave in Public Works and functioning as the administrative assistant, really kind of being the lifeblood for the department and helping out the entire leadership team in Public Works. She takes pride in her work. She sets a great example for staff who she interacts with in terms of her dependable work ethic and great customer service skills. This year, I think, as we all know, and have heard a number of us say, it has been an unprecedented year. And so Lisa, having to deal with the pandemic, having to deal with the onslaught of calls, has always done so with positivity and a very compassionate attitude. She handles upset customers very well. And I think, as we all know, sometimes we get that working in the municipal sector. She does so by listening to them, remaining calm, and always with a positive and helpful attitude. She's supportive in numerous situations. And if she doesn't know the answer, she ensures that she finds the answer and gets back to residents. So Lisa, congratulations. I'm going to give everybody a chance if they want to say something. Any of our staff who want to say something after they receive each of these awards. So Lisa, congratulations. Not sure if you want to say something. Let's see if I see Lisa.
I don't see her.
See Lisa, she's probably watching at home. Sometimes a little more nervous to come here and say something in front of council. I tried to highlight that council isn't that intimidating, but. So moving forward, our next recipient is Devin Linton, and a lot of you know Devin. He sits with us here through almost every council meeting and committee meeting. And so Devin is our next award recipient in terms of his outstanding customer service. He has continuously gone above and beyond since he came to the town and is extremely professional, courteous, helpful, and of course provides excellent IT services. He takes complex issues and I think simplifies them. I know oftentimes when I'm challenged with some technical capabilities, he's patient, doesn't laugh at me when I ask very simple questions. but he's always there for staff and the public. So Devin, congratulations. And I don't know if you want to say a few words. I know you're a man of few words. I did hear that from Lawrence. You said you weren't going to say much, but the floor is yours.
I'd just like to thank staff and council. I worked with almost all of you, or probably everybody. It's our pleasure as the IT department to, go through and assist you where we can. And everyone's very kind, and the gesture's so nice. And I appreciate the recognition. It's been a busy year for everybody. So even any kind of thank you is always appreciated. So thank you all.
Thanks, Devin. Our next award recipient is Kathy McGrath, also a very familiar face for many of you. Kathy really is, I think, in a lot of ways, the face of our Emergency Operations Center and has been so during the COVID-19 pandemic. She joined us in the summer of 2019, although that seems like a lifetime ago now when you think back. She joined us as our Emergency Management Coordinator, something that we shared with the town of Grimsby, although we like to call her our own, and Grimsby just pays us for that service. So we do have some ownership there. She's been working to develop and implement an emergency planning and business continuity strategy, and this has involved both internal and external stakeholders. I'm sure she did not expect that her extensive emergency management knowledge across the region would come into need so quickly and for such a prolonged period of time. We had a pandemic in March 2020, and with the activation of the EOC, I think we're now at about 150 meetings of that EOC team since the pandemic started, if not a little bit more. She's guided all of us. I know I rely on her extensively for guidance or support, maybe a little cheerleading to make sure things are going well when sometimes they don't look as optimistic. So she's guided us through all the plans, the documentation, the provincial guidelines, which are numerous, and she's quickly set up processes, digital resources, and ability to share information for all of us. She truly has shown exceptional customer service and spirit throughout the pandemic. She has a can-do attitude, a collaborative nature, and always does it with a smile. So congratulations, Kathy, and thanks for all your support.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you so much for the kind words. It's greatly unexpected. Really just here doing my job, and it is a great pleasure, and I am forever grateful to be working with such a great team. We do what we do, and we get where we need to get with good people on the team working together. So under council's leadership and your leadership, Mike, and of course, Chief Hudson, I appreciate all the kind words, the support, and I look forward to many more years working together. And hopefully we can get through this pandemic emergency with great success and put it behind us and move forward and further develop the emergency management program for the town of Lincoln and of course Grimsby. So thank you very much. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks so much, Kathy. So our last Customer Service and Spirit Award recipient, last but not least, Mr. Dave Warden. So Dave joined the Community Services Department in 2018, and he brought with him many years of leadership experience and definitely a strong reputation for delivering results. He always listens to the needs of the customer and has a calm and positive approach, which I know I've experienced even in the face of things that aren't so calm. Since joining the organization, he has made significant improvements to delivering town services, and again, doing it with a customer service focus, both internally and externally. From the start of the pandemic, he's become a respected and valued member of the EOC team, ensuring we had supplies of PPE in place to serve our needs and also address concerns with handling members of the public once our facilities reopened. He made sure our facilities were always clean. He brought in partners that understood the importance of enhanced cleaning and the necessary protections and signage of facilities and equipment in parks was always taken care of. Dave has shown that he can adapt to the changing needs and demands of the organization. And whilst he will say It takes a team. He has implemented a number of policies and procedures that help make the broader team successful and deserves to be recognized for his significant contributions. Thanks, Dave. Congratulations.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. I'm very honored to receive this today. And I just wanted to recognize the contributions of my immediate team within community services and my extended teams throughout the town in how they aid with the ability to deliver the service. So thank you.
So now moving forward to the CAO's Awards of Excellence. This is given to an employer or a team who demonstrates outstanding qualities of excellence in their work and have made an extraordinary contribution to the town, consistently demonstrating outstanding public service. They reflect a superior level of service in team effectiveness, customer service, innovation, creativity, and continuous improvement. Our first recipient is Eric Vonk, who is from the Planning and Development Department. So introducing Eric. Eric's work performance already and always has reflected a superior level of service in all areas. He joined our team in October 2019 as the Manager of Development. His portfolio was initially to encompass oversight of the property development activity, largely at the Prudhoe site within the town of Lincoln. However, within a short time of being with the town, Eric excelled in his solutions-oriented approach, and his portfolio grew. Further, within 6 months, his colleague went on maternity leave. Eric seamlessly and without hesitation took on more responsibility. Then in October, he again stepped up to help out a fellow department with a challenging project. Eric is always cheerful, positive, and efficient. His manner with developers and contractors has always been professional and focused on providing excellent customer service. Another aspect of Eric's job is to manage the development team, which is not always an easy task, I think, as we all know. It is diverse and multifaceted with competing priorities. He's brought that team together in an effective and efficient way. He understands and takes a pragmatic approach to solving problems. And for those of us that have worked with Eric, I think we can all attest to that. I had a nice chat with Eric the other day. We talked about school, we talked about life, we talked about a whole bunch of other things. I think I left more invigorated after that conversation than Eric did in terms of what his aspirations are. He says he seeks out mentors, but I think anybody that Eric interacts with, he leaves them better. And so hopefully I gave him a few words of wisdom, but he definitely left me with some. So Eric, congratulations, well-deserved. A chance to make a few comments.
Sure. Thank you. I just want to say this was certainly unexpected, but I'm so very grateful of not just the award, but the opportunities that have been afforded to me by working at the town of Lincoln. And certainly for the first time in my career here, and I've worked at many municipalities, I don't just feel like my employee number. I'm actually Eric here, and I feel like everything that I've been doing here, if I want it, I can do it, and everybody else around me makes that happen. And I want to just say thank you to my boss Matt for helping me out and allowing me to take on great work and great mentorship through there, and certainly Kathleen as well. And just a shout out to Dave Graham and Shannon McKay to also help me out with mentorship and giving me great opportunity to learn more than just what I'm doing. And certainly council and mayor for being there and help me out and allowing me to have the opportunities with the public to serve the best. And so just want to say thank you to everybody. Without everybody here, it wouldn't have been possible. And I'm very grateful and for the opportunity. And just like Councilor Bernay said the last time we were talking, you're going to want to be here. You're going to want to work for the town of Lincoln. It's certainly growing in a very positive way. And I'm all in. I'm here for the long term if things work out, and I'm really enjoying myself. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Our next recipient is a team recipient. Actually, the next two are. So I'd like to introduce and congratulate the shoplincoln.ca team. And that includes Paul Deaney, Cameron Rotz, Brittany Bazlewski, Leanne Paraschini, and Liliana Busnello. Congratulations, guys. So the site that was launched during our Economic Development Week in May 2020 was known and has become known as shoplincoln.ca. It's a site that helps Lincoln businesses continue to provide their goods and services during the COVID-19 restrictions. The website provides the community with a simple, direct link to local businesses offering food delivery, takeout, e-commerce, gifts, live stream classes, and interactive events. It features restaurants, stores, wineries, craft breweries, distilleries, greenhouse growers, farms, farm stands, and services. ShopLincoln.ca is a Town of Lincoln-led initiative. It started and occurred in partnership with the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Bench Beamsville BIA, 20 Valley Tourism Association, and Ontario Craft Wineries. While the website is a town response to the current situation, it will continue to operate post-pandemic as a way to help businesses stay connected to their customers and the community. Face shields were also created with branding to support the Downtown Bench Beamsville BIA and distributed to businesses to support them during the reopening. Over 1,500 masks were distributed, and along with the website, we have been well received by local businesses throughout the community. The town's shoplincoln.ca initiative was shortlisted and had been shortlisted for the 2020 EDCO Awards of Excellence in Economic Development. Congratulations, Paul, Cameron, Brittany, Liliana, and Leanne. I don't know who wants to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and I'll start and definitely let the team chime in as well. And thank you for this recognition, both to the CEO and members of council. When the pandemic hit back in March, we did really, think long and hard in terms of how we can support our businesses and really support them to the point where, they can continue to employ our residents here in Lincoln. And really, this award goes to shout out to the businesses of Lincoln. They've thought long and hard and have been resilient throughout this entire pandemic, and we do support them every day here in the town. And this award really goes out to the hard work that they've done. And of course, to the team who pulled hard, whether it was at the start to support businesses and get the shop up and running, to a point where we've really pivoted to make it a tourism support website as well. And as the CEO said, although it is been brought out because of this pandemic, we're going to have it stay forever as a method to support our businesses. So thank you, and appreciate all your kind comments, Mike, and over the team who wants to make some comments as well.
I guess I'll chime in quickly. Thank you, Mr. CAO. It's a really great recognition. It's always good to see your work get honored in one way or another. But obviously, we couldn't have done it without the support from council, the mayor, even yourself as well. But really, the support from the businesses, because without the businesses really getting in on the website wouldn't be what it is. So, thank you, everyone, and even staff. So, thank you, everybody.
I guess I'll just chime in to say a couple of things. I'm kind of a late addition to the group, but I'm really happy to carry on the torch. It's an excellent program, and I'm happy to see it continue. Always looking for opportunities to promote and tie in with other initiatives and other communications efforts that we're doing. So there's an opportunity to if we're putting out the word about one project, then we'll say, hey, like this really Shop Lincoln is let's promote Shop Lincoln and let's get the word out and support the local businesses. So I'm really happy to do that. It's great to be a part of the Dev and Communications team and the Lincoln team. So kudos to the whole group who spearheaded it, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanna. Leanne, Brittany, anything else to add?
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Since everyone else said everything so rather eloquently, there's not much left for me to say, but just a great big thank you to Council for your innovation and forward thinking and investing in tourism and activating tourism so quickly here in Lincoln, especially at a time of such great need. To you, Mr. CAO, for your leadership, Paul, your leadership, and to my fellow teammates and colleagues for your never-ending support. Honestly, I am grateful every day to have joined this team, and I'm looking forward to what the future has to hold.
Thanks, Brittany. Leanne?
So just, yes, thank you to the team. It was truly a team effort. And I know we all really appreciate being recognized by council and our colleagues on staff. You know, we have a great dynamic team. So just thanks to the whole team.
Thanks, Anne. So our last CAO's Award recipient is the 50 Faces of Lincoln, and that includes Sarah Ain, Andrea Chambers, and once again, Leanne is being recognized for that as well. So in 2020, the town of Lincoln turned 50 years old. A series of events were planned throughout the year to celebrate this milestone. But then, I think as we all know, COVID-19 hit and the world really stopped in a lot of ways. So 2 months into the restrictions that were placed on our community and really on every community as a result of the pandemic, the stress was starting to really show on people. Andrea Chambers, who all of you know, who's the executive assistant to the mayor and to the CAO, Sarah, our associate director in recreation and culture, and Leanne started to have conversations. They decided that citizens of Lincoln needed a boost and really took it upon themselves to start this seminal project. Despite the many challenges that organizing something this large presented, and I can attest to that in listening to Andrea outside my door sometimes, you know, curse at herself, trying to coordinate all of this. It was something that I think we pulled together, and we pulled together so incredibly well. And I say we, I mean the collective we. I really had nothing to do with it. It really was Andrea, Leanne, and Sarah. And so I think they did it in a year that really highlighted council and the community. So 50 Faces of Lincoln was a council initiative with nominations driven really by members of council with a focus on recognizing individuals who have contributed to making Lincoln a place to grow, prosper, and belong. There was a unique mural located on the upper level of the Fleming Center, featuring each of the nominees with access to a brief biography to showcase why they were selected and the contribution they made to the community. Recipients were selected by council with a focus on recognizing individuals from all different parts of Lincoln, not only from a geographic standpoint, but from all areas of the community: youth, older adults, businesses, volunteers, sport, arts, culture, heritage, public service, community leaders, agriculture, and education. Andrea and Sarah devoted countless hours over and above their regular workload to ensure that each recipient felt special, valued, and recognized despite the restrictions placed upon the committee. Each of the 5 separate events, and we did have to host multiple events due to crowd sizes, was complete and was a complete gala-like evening with each participant and their families honored for their contribution to the community. There's no doubt that the 50 Faces of Lincoln project was the highlight of 2020 for council. It was an event that focused on the positives and the future when really we were surrounded by negativity and pessimism. Without the dedication of this team, led by Andrea and Sarah, and the vision that they had, this project would never have been fulfilled, and the community would never have had such a tangible reminder of how the town of Lincoln truly is a place to grow, prosper, and belong. Congratulations to all 3 of you. Andrea, Sarah, Leanne, who wants to speak first?
It's probably going to be me, right, Andrea? I know you have a lengthy acceptance speech that you're going to give, but thank you, Mr. CAO, and thanks to members of council for really helping us with this project and getting behind it. We certainly had a lot of fun with this project, even though it morphed a lot over the course of 2020 many times. I know that I am really proud to be a part of the Lincoln team always, but in the last year, it's been an exceptional year, and I'm very proud to be here. Working with Andrea and Leanne on this was really great. They're hard workers, and certainly they put their heart and soul into this project. And I did just want to recognize a number of businesses that we worked with from our local creative economy that also helped us finish this project. So Clayton and Katie Letourneau from Custom Sign Lab, Aaron Kelly from Stories Unlocked, and Drew Unruh from Made by Frame, who really assisted us with getting this out to the community who couldn't physically be there with us necessarily, but they were able to see lots of great photos and video images of it as well. So I'll pass it over to Andrea and Leanne. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Council for the opportunity to support such a crucial 50th anniversary project, especially at a time when a lot of people were actually cancelling events and activities. This truly was an important legacy project for both the community and particularly the 50 recipients, and there could have been many more. But I just appreciate the opportunity to be involved in another great legacy project for the town, and to thank Council for that opportunity. It was great working with Sarah and Leanne, and appreciate Mike allowing me the time to be able to spend on these projects. So thank you very much for the recognition.
Thanks, Andrea. Leanne?
Yeah, so thank you, Council and Mike and staff for this recognition as well. It was such an honor to work on this project. It was probably the highlight of my year in 2020 working on this. Truly a team effort with Sarah and Andrea, and I know we're all very happy with how it turned out. So thank you.
Thanks so much. So before I go to our heroism nomination, I do see Lisa on the screen right now. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
So Lisa, I read out your nomination. I thought it was very good. Everybody was, really happy about it, but we didn't get to hear from you. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you.
Oh, okay. No, I was really surprised. I've loved working for the town, and just really honored to be recognized for customer service. I think it's really important. It's a really important part of my job, and yeah, I'm honored. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and thanks for joining us, Lisa. So our last award for the evening is the Heroism Award, and our recipient is Steve Shorthouse. Many of you probably read the article about Steve, heard me talk about it in an email to all of you, but I think it's important that Steve once again does get recognized for his heroism. So on Tuesday, February 16th, 2021, so not too long ago, while assisting Public Works with plowing the roads here in Beamsville, on one of the roads, Steve saw a man laying in the snow and stopped to make sure he was okay. We understand that the man was unconscious and woke when Steve approached him, and Steve helped him get to his garage where the man's wife was there, and the neighbors came out to help, and they called 911 together. He was subsequently transported to West Lincoln Memorial Hospital for care. I heard from a number of staff that morning via email about Steve's actions going above and beyond. I know that the family, local residents, and the staff at the town were both very proud and thankful to Steve for his actions. Our job is public service and helping the community and people who live in it, and that can take many forms. And I think Steve, without hesitation, really saw someone in need and acted, I think, like most of us would hope we would act. But Steve, a phenomenal effort. Thanks to you for all your heroism in terms of really saving someone's life. And so I'm hoping you've joined by now. I know we were going back and forth a little bit. Can you hear me, Steve? So I see Steve's name on the screen. I know Devin and I were trying to get him hooked up. Steve?
It doesn't look like Steve has audio.
Okay. So Steve, I hopefully you heard that. If not, we'll make sure we play the video back If in the next few minutes you do get audio, we can figure out how to interrupt the proceedings, which is never something our clerk's department likes, but we'll interrupt the proceedings and maybe you can make a few comments. Otherwise, thank you for me. I think, thank you from all of council, the senior team. I think all of us look at what you did that day and are incredibly grateful, as was the family, because I know I received an email from them as well. So thanks, Steve. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for the, I think, rather lengthy opportunity to speak about our staff.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. And on behalf of council and the staff that aren't here this evening, we're very thankful to have such dedicated and talented staff make a difference. And I believe that we've all heard that there's a wide range of skills and behaviors that make up the team that you are leading, Mr. CAO. So I want to thank you for your leadership around staff development, and also for the senior management team who weren't part of the group, for their support and leadership and influence on those core skills. It would appear that there's room for everyone to perform and to be seen as a great formal as well as informal leader. I think those are very ideal circumstances. And success seems to be measured by a combination of clear direction and investment by council, the collective and overlapping work plan, which I think is really quite contributor to our success as a whole, but also the freedom and support to be creative and to do your best work. And that is one of the characteristics that I think is most important in the work that the staff do. Yes, the project is approved by council. And yes, there's a budget, but there are always little surprises that go along with every project that have been determined because of the excitement, because of the innovation and the discussions that take place with staff. Those are the really special components of teamwork and the development of the team of the town. So thank you all very much. You have just done tremendous work every day, but even more so this year. Everyone has really pulled together. So thank you very, very much. It's our pleasure to acknowledge you all this evening. And Andrea, do you have your lovely, do you happen to have your lovely ornament there? I think it would be nice for everybody to see these. They're glass and they have engravings on them, and they always look nice on a person's desk. And so here it is here. It's kind of concave. And what does it say, Andrea?
This one says 2020 CAO's Award for Excellence, and it has the name and the logo and the project on it.
Great.
One is unique.
Lovely. Thank you. All right, Mr. CAO. We'll move on now, councillors, to item number 7, which is the motion to approve council minutes.
No, Madam Mayor, it's announcement by members right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've walked right over my own notes. If members have any announcements, please remember you have a limit of 3 items. I see Councillor Brunet. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to quickly comment that on Tuesday, March the 23rd, we raised the Meals on Wheels flag at the town of Lincoln in support of the March for Meals awareness campaign. Had the opportunity to be present along with yourself, Madam Mayor, and 2 representatives from Community Services of Niagara. The Meals on Wheels program has been serving the town of Lincoln since 1972 in partnership with Albright Manor, where the meals are prepared in beams to be distributed in Beamsville, Jordan, Vineland, Camden, and Smithville, and at Shalom Manor, where they prepare the hot meals for the town of Grimsby, Meals on Wheels. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those 2 partnerships Shalom and Albright Manor. The program couldn't be successful without them. Meals on Wheels is not only designed to ensure that vulnerable seniors and adults with disabilities receive a nutritious meal, but also it ensures that these individuals are checked on regularly. This vital safety net allows people to remain healthier and independent in their homes. Meals on Wheels provided over 2.7 million meals to over 40,000 Ontarians pre-pandemic. During the pandemic, levels have increased across Ontario by 40%. These services have proven even more crucial in reducing food insecurity, social anxiety, and isolation during COVID-19. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Community Services Recreational Coordinator Lori Laird and the entire department for continuing to bring awareness to these different organizations as we raise the flag at the town of Lincoln. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. We have Councillor Rajima up next.
Thank you, Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things from the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. April 21st is the Mayor's Lunch. May 2nd, there's an event at which our CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, will be attending, and we're all looking forward to that. May 31st and June 2nd is the Mayor Easton's Charity Golf Tournaments, broken out into 2 days. There are options to play either 9 or 18 holes, and many sponsorship opportunities if you're interested. And also the Chamber's working on having a socially distant outdoor event, likely at London Born Winery in July as the warm weather approaches. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I see Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just a reminder to the folks in Ward 1 that myself and Councillor Rajima will be having a ward meeting on April the 15th. There is registration available now. I'd also like to thank the staff who will be in attendance to take all the hot pertinent questions from the Ward 1ers and any of the stragglers from Ward 2, 3, or 4 that want to join. And then also to the staff who are helping us actually put the whole thing together in the communications department. Thank you very much and hope to see you then.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't see any other names.
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move on and we will now consider item 7.1, Special Council Minutes of March 8, 2021. Members of Council have any questions or comments?
I see no hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima, seconded by Councillor Mikulik, that Council of the following meetings of Council. Special Council Minutes, March 8, 2021. Call the vote.
Thank you. Councillor Brunei,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Support.
That carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 8 is delegation. And our delegation is tonight is Janice Atwood Petkovsky and Jeffrey Abrams, Principals Integrity. Both parties are contracted by the town as our integrity commissioners. This item relates to item 9.1 under correspondence received from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario dated February the 3rd, 2021 on options for enforcing compliance by council members with municipal codes of conduct. There have been a variety of questions about behaviors by council members across the province, most egregious, of course, being recently out of the city of Ottawa. And it received a great deal of attention, including some significant discussion at the AMO board. Janice and Jeffrey, I'm looking for you.
Good evening, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Welcome.
Janice is here as well, and another box on your screen somewhere.
Hello, Janice.
I think she's having some audio problems. She just indicated she can't hear.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
Why don't you start, Jeff?
I will. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to participate this evening. As you know, the province has commenced, or at least announced, a consultation, what they describe as a consultation to strengthen municipal codes of conduct. Though broadly stated, it does seem, as you indicated, to be focused on workplace harassment and discrimination themes. The lead for the consultation is the Associate Minister of Children and Women's Issues and not the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Nevertheless, it is out of the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and there is an opportunity to address code of conduct amendments of all kinds. You have the AMO submission on your agenda. We recently learned of it. And in fact, the Municipal Integrity Commissioners of Ontario, we hosted a meeting of MECO this past Friday to discuss what our positions might be on the consultations, and we're just starting work on it. But we can, just at a high level, give you our perspective on what might be involved, and certainly we can focus on the AMO submission just to give a little flavor to that, at least from the perspective of an integrity commissioner. As you know, there are some principles that AMO's adopted where they seem to be aligned with municipal thinking. I won't comment on the principles, but the AMO submission has put some things in play. The first is the notion of either removal by the minister or recall by the voters, neither of which AMO supports, and neither would we support that. First of all, it's unlikely. If there's a political action, it would result in the intended benefits. Very difficult to achieve, politicizes a process, doesn't engage due process, that sort of thing. So I'll just leave that for a moment. Code enforcement by integrity commissioners is something that AMO seems to support. They do recognize, in their view, that there's a need to improve from a province-wide perspective, the way integrity commissioners go about their work, and there's need to provide more education and training and standardization of integrity commissioner approaches. And I don't think we would disagree with that on a broad base, as a broad-based conclusion. AMO's also indicated that administrative monetary penalties might be a solution. As you know, under the Municipal Act, on the finding of a breach of a code of conduct, there is a possibility that council might impose a sanction of up to 90 days suspension of pay. And that value of what is a day's pay, 90 days pay, varies immensely across the province. So I believe the thinking is that an administrative monetary penalty would assign a particular dollar value to a breach. It's worth pursuing. We have some concern that it might convert a collaborative, administrative, educational, and relatively informal process in something more legalistic and litigious. And there are other options. Perhaps the Education Act, for example, includes sanctions, not the monetary sanctions, but under the Education Act, it's possible that a Board of Education, its trustees could impose a suspension of one meeting, one board meeting, preventing a member from actually attending a meeting, which the Municipal Act sanctions don't do, or something that occasionally happens in municipalities, but it isn't expressly spoken to under the Municipal Act, and that is removing a member, an offending member, from committees, either a few meetings or removing them from attending at being on a particular committee. And there may be a number of other options as well. AMO also talks about suspension. I'm not able today to really describe the position in detail. It seems to be linked to, in AMO's words, it's linked to a member's participation in decisions which could have a deleterious consequence to public health or safety, such as during an emergency. And I'm not quite sure how that aligns with a breach of a code of conduct. But again, AMO, that is AMO's position. And then there is the notion of removal from office. So this is different from removal by the minister or recall by the voters. This seems to be similar in nature to the removal from office, which could occur upon a court application under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in egregious circumstances, acting the judiciary to remove an elected representative because of a breach of that statute. The suggestion seems to be here that that also be available for egregious code of conduct offenses. And again, we do have experience under the MCIA, and there is I don't think anyone would disagree with me that the judiciary has a pretty clear reluctance to remove an elected official for breach of that statute. It's likely the same would be the case for breaches of codes of conduct. It again will increase litigiousness of the investigative process. So even in, I want members to appreciate that, though this seems to be focused on really concerning cases out of Ottawa of harassment, the sexual connotation, there's a range of behaviors that an integrity commissioner will look at, and they're all important behaviors. It starts with incivility, and it goes all the way to the kinds of cases that you see in Ottawa. And the concern is that a one-size-fits-all approach might have implications for the whole process, as I indicated earlier, to make it more litigious, less informal, less solutions-oriented, more costly for the municipality. So for it to work well, there would have to be a clear carve-out for which cases might be subject to that kind of significant sanction. You should know there's other activity as well underway. There's a private members bill 260, which suggests that integrity commissioners should be directed to be able to apply to the court to vacate a member's seat. The bill, the instructional notes of the bill indicate that it's reserved for circumstances where members contravene the code of conduct by failing to comply with the workplace violence or harassment policies. And so it's not quite clear what kinds of events would trigger that kind of response, what would warrant it, what would not warrant it. And again, that is a private members bill that seems to be paralleling this consultation. We've learned that there is in Alberta, Janice, I think it is, there's some legislation coming through. It's recall legislation. In that case, it would require 40% of the population, not voters, but 40% of the population in order to trigger municipal recall. So obviously a very high bar, politicizes the process. And you know, when we say politicizes the process, one element that people don't readily think of is that it politicizes it for the victim as well, right? It engages the victim as part of this brute force political process, which may not be a purposeful end result, one that at least that we would all be seeking. So, you know, there, as we say, the focus seems to be on the Ottawa case and egregious circumstances, but it does open up an opportunity for some amendments to codes of conduct generally. The town of Collingwood recently completed a judicial inquiry that clarified the role of the common law in assessing members' potential for members' conflicts of interest and the family classes and that sort of thing that might apply. So amendments to that extent would be helpful. One thing we've noticed in our practice is that far too often we're obliged to tell a counselor that they cannot participate in a council discussion because their children are either the summer job, or they're a lifeguard, or they're a member of a police service board, or on the educational side, they're teachers. It's quite a frequent event. And as you know, you're empowered to vote on your own salaries and benefits, but through some quirk of the legislation, you can't participate when your children are a member of a group such as that. And we think that some advocacy to make a modification of the act might be helpful to a number of members across the province. And lastly, there are a number of bodies to whom the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act applies that do not have access to an integrity commissioner, and so they can't readily seek advice and have themselves protected and avoid the missteps that might be attributed to breaching that particular statute engaging in matters in which they had a pecuniary interest. So extending the role of integrity commissioners to those bodies as well, non-municipalities, might well be helpful. So that's really a bird's eye view as we see it very early on. We don't know what the consultation is going to look like. We certainly haven't had any indication from the ministry directly. We've seen the announcements, as have you, and we're happy to keep you up to date if we learn more.
Can I just piggyback? And I'm so sorry that my technology was giving me such a hard time. It usually cooperates. Tonight it's just misbehaving. So I missed quite a bit of the front end, although I think I have a very good idea of what was talked about. I just want to piggyback on the question of recall. 2 points in case they weren't covered, and that is that the British Columbia has recall legislation. It's been in effect for a number of years. It's never been successfully used. So that's a point to think about, whether there should be recall legislation in Ontario. It seems to be a knee-jerk reaction sometimes, but if you think about it, it exists in BC. It's never been properly successfully exercised. The recall legislation that's before the Alberta legislature right now for consideration has within it, of course, you can imagine that there is a process for judicial review of the decision for recall. So, I mean, it entails a whole other litigation process built into that legislation. So this is not something that would ever be either easily or readily achievable, and it absolutely would end up in litigation before a court on a judicial review application. So it's kind of fraught with all sorts of issues. It looks like a simple solution. It's not. Anyway.
Thanks very much, Janice, and welcome. Thank you very much for making yourself available to us. So I just want to obtain a little bit of clarification. So at the present time, Councillor Foster and I have a date with our regional councillor colleagues to discuss this at the next corporate services meeting. There's a fair bit of political expectation that actions are going to be taken, that change is actually going to take place across the province, and there's quite a bit of pressure, appropriate pressure, I believe, to look at this with a different lens, for sure. Whether the outcomes are appropriate or not, I don't have any opinion on that at the moment. So the question that I would have right now is, how is council best served in the interim? What would happen if we happen to have a case of egregious behavior in Lincoln? How would you guide us in the short term?
Well, I can start. We certainly have a broad client base, and we have had experiences where there has been some significant misbehavior on councils, not quite to the extent or kind that you see in Ottawa, in the Ottawa case. And we have engaged in both report writing, so the articulation of what has happened is a significant impact, not a sanction, but has a significant impact on the offending member. And in addition, we've taken the opportunity to do really focused training. Now, it's hard to do that through the camera and the computer, but focused training where members can come together and really identify what the problematic behavior is, what the impact is. Here, the member hears the impact from those who are affected, and local approaches to solutions are addressed. And that's oftentimes associated around communications. Members hear what they've done, hear what the impact is, and come hopefully to a recognition that the behavior needs to end. So that in the interim is something you could do. The complaint process is available to you now. And so what we're talking about really is the sanctions that might occur at the conclusion of a complaint process. And it seems if some of these recommended sanctions are embedded in the legislation, what we're going to find is an elongated process, more engagement of the courts, more engagement of lawyers, more of less of a solutions orientation, and more of something that would resemble a court case.
Right, okay, that's helpful, and it takes some of the urgency, I think, out of the situation. So council, if anybody has any questions, raise your hand and we'll proceed a little bit further with this.
We have Regional Councillor Foster. So right now, Madam Mayor, I'll just interject to get a majority vote to permit a delegation to the floor.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. So if all of council could raise their hand that are in favor to permit Regional Councillor Foster, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Regional Councillor, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton. So, and by the way, thank you, Jeffrey and Janice, for your comments. I happen to sit on the AMO board as well as my regional duties. And this was a very interesting discussion that came up at the AMO board. Some of your commentary that you have brought forward for Lincoln Council here is pretty much bang on with what it was that we were discussing as well. The scenario that you were talking about, Janice, the situation in BC, what most have seen with that is that it's become a political weapon as opposed to something that's really truly doing what it's expected to do. You know, some sort of an integrity commissioner piece of the puzzle type of thing. We're very concerned at the AMO board level of introducing, as we would say, political weapons, if you want to put it that way. And if you reading through the actual letter from Graydon, the president of AMO, you get that theme coming through it as well. It needs to be toughened for sure, and there needs to be a number of other things that are considered within it. One comment I can make as well on Integrity Commissioner. There was a lot of concern at the AMO board about having the province being the final arbiter of someone being removed from a council. And the discussion that went on with that was very much around the fact that municipal governments are a mature level of government, and we certainly don't need Big Brother making a final decision for us on what we should or shouldn't be doing. And of course, it brings in the danger of, again, political weapons that could potentially be coming into play. So fascinating discussion at the AMO board, and I thought it was captured very well in both the motion and also the letter that came out. So anyway, thank you very much for the presentation you've given to council here. And yes, Mayor Easton and I will be in our next council meeting, which is in, I believe, Mayor Easton in April. This is going to be coming up as a discussion point. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I see Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, through you to the presenters. Thank you for coming. It's always interesting to hear new developments with the Integrity Commission and the stories that come from it. Question I have is like, so councillors, you know, whether it's a small municipality or large municipality, have same powers, same voice, and same consequences for questionable behavior. Traditionally, when I hear of these codes of conduct violations, it results in suspensions or of council or committee duties and pay. Does it ever extend beyond? Does it actually hit a councillor's pocketbook beyond what they get paid?
So I can begin the answer, Madam Mayor. The act, the municipal act, indicates that there really are only two kinds of sanctions. One is a reprimand by council, and two kinds of penalties. Let me call them penalties. One is a reprimand by council, and then the other is a suspension of pay for up to 90 days. Now that's remuneration, it does not bar a member from attending meetings and continuing to work. The council, in addition, under its broad municipal act powers, has the ability to do some things that are directly remediative to a particular complaint. That's not something we often do, but just as an example, well, we never do it, but we never recommend that somebody give an apology, for example. We think that an apology is only worthwhile if it's genuinely and voluntarily given, but councils have the power to say to an offending member, we recommend that you apologize to thus and so. In terms of any further monetary sanctions, and I think that's what your question was driving at, there is no room in the statute to do that. I think that's what the AMO recommendations were speaking to when they were talking about administrative monetary penalties, which is, well, I don't think you want to see integrity commissioners with a yellow parking ticket book going around. This is, I think, a way to assign a dollar value to the sanction. So because, as you mentioned, across Ontario, councillors carry out the same kind of duties, but they have rates of pay that differ. So a month's salary suspension in Toronto is going to have a heck of a lot of a different impact than it will in a small municipality in Ontario. And for members of local boards who receive no salary, who are volunteers, there's really no sanction associated with the suspension of pay at all. So that may be what AMO is driving at in its recommendation.
I appreciate that. Oh,
Can I piggyback on that thought, just in case, to sort of flesh out a bit with the administrative monetary penalties idea. So, and I know probably Jeff discussed this. We did have some broader discussion with other integrity commissioners around this, and there is no support around the table for generally the idea of administrative monetary penalties as a sanction for conduct and behavior which breaches a code of conduct. It seems like it might be a way to level the playing field in a monetary perspective, but if you think about it, and you can ask your own staff, the maximum fines, the set fines that are established by the province, because the province establishes set fines where there's penalties involved, they're quite low. Administrative monetary penalties are not going to rack up even hundreds of dollars. I think the set fines are going to be, I could be mistaken, but they're going to be something like $300 at the upset limit. They're not going to be significant amounts. The other thing is, it's true, integrity commissioners play a completely different role than an enforcement officer issuing a ticket. And the biggest consequence for an elected official is the exposure of daylighting a behavior that's inappropriate and egregious. I mean, the daylighting of it through a report is probably the most damaging to a politician who's really misbehaving badly. And that goes towards what the public thinks about that politician. An administrative monetary penalty is like a parking ticket. It disappears. Nobody would even see it, unless it was the subject of a full report. And in which case, in the fullness of time, it might become nothing more than a ticket issued. So it's probably not the way to go for this kind of matter. That's sort of the thinking generally with integrity commissioners. It's not really the direction to go in. I don't know, Jeff, if you mentioned, one of the thoughts that, and maybe this isn't even something that's being discussed, but certainly one of the thoughts would be that under other legislation, for example, the Education Act, there's the ability, Jeff, did you mention about the Education Act? Yes. So the ability to actually create a suspension as opposed to a suspension of pay might be an avenue to go. Anyway, sorry, I'm repeating, Jeff.
No, well, I appreciate that response. It's just, I ask that because whether it's a large or small municipality, there's, decisions to be made, and all it takes, it can take one counselor to really muck things up and create chaos within a council. And I just worry, like, fortunately here within the town of Lincoln, we have a very, cohesive council and, get along well. But what would happen if there was, chaos? And, what would the penalties be sufficient to mitigate that or prevent that from the future? Whereas if I was a councillor, let's say in Toronto, making $100,000, I would be a little more reluctant to want to risk my political career or possibly lose my chances of being reelected. So that's kind of where I was going with my questioning. Appreciate your responses. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk, I'm not able to see any other hands.
Do not have any other hands showing, Madam Mayor.
All right. Well, we have a motion that council receive and file as information the following delegation: Janice Atwood Petkowski and Jeffrey Abrams, Principals Integrity, regarding item 9.1, correspondence from the Association of Municipalities Ontario dated February the 3rd, 2021, on options for enforcing compliance by council members with municipal codes of conduct. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you. And councillors, item number 9 is the correspondence in question. Do members of council have any questions or comments regarding the item itself? There being no further questions, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor McPherson. The council receive and file as information the following correspondence from the Association of Municipalities Ontario dated February 3rd, 2021, regarding options for enforcing compliance by council members with municipal codes of conduct. Madam Clerk, would you call out the vote?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Now, Madam Clerk, I'm going to be seeking your advice as well as the advice of the CAO in regard to where we now stand on this matter. We've received some advice. We have the report. We had correspondence on the Ottawa matter several weeks ago. And so I want to make sure that we understand as a council what our options are going forward. Do we rely entirely on due process as it's been laid out by our code of conduct?
I'll let the CAO chime in.
Okay, Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and definitely our integrity commissioners can correct me if I'm wrong. We're right now, the phase that we're in really is that consultative phase. And so I think there's an opportunity if council wants to, either at this meeting or at a future meeting, provide some of the thoughts that I think were shared today. I think in a lot of ways it'll validate what we're hearing collectively and what I think will likely be a conversation that you're having at the region and around the various AMO tables. I think there could be an acceptance of or a motion to approve the position of AMO right now, which I think is really the body that's advocating and collating some of that information. But I'll look to Jeffrey or Janice if they've got necessarily other suggestions. But I think right now we're in that consultative phase. Right now, council's code of conduct is up to date. It does provide all the necessary efforts and the necessary tools that are in place. to the best of our ability. Should legislation change, and should there be further legislation and penalties, we would have to make sure that our code of conduct is updated to reflect that. But Jeffrey, Janice, am I fairly accurate in kind of where we're at in the process?
I think so, Mr. CAO. The method through which the consultations are to be carried out aren't even known as yet. All we have is the announcement, and so I don't think council really has to put itself in a position where it needs to make a decision today. Certainly, we will advise you if we learn of anything. And you have the opportunity, certainly through your representatives who'll be attending at the region, to have some ideas coalesce. The status quo is, from our perspective, working well for the town of Lincoln. There could be tinkering done to the code of conduct. Always, we can look at that in due course. Training again, if there's an issue of one kind or another. And I think this just gives me the opportunity to say that, to remind council that the role of the integrity commissioner is really a broad one. We often hear of integrity commissioners in the context of complaint administration. Complaint has been made, the integrity commissioner is investigating, writing a report, recommending sanctions, and then council is approving sanctions. That's what hits the newspaper. But the most effective way integrity commissioners operate is through education, advice, discrete opportunities to help a municipality course correct. That's really where we're most effective. And of course, there is no measure of that available for you because it's all done confidentially, but mostly done confidentially. Direct education at the public obviously would not be confidential. So it's working well now. We think that a watching brief is the appropriate course right now, and we can undertake to inform you more once we learn of it.
I'm expecting, Councillor Foster, that there will be a report before committee meets at the region, and we can certainly share that. There will undoubtedly be a report following the discussion, whether it has recommendations in it or not. We have no idea. So that's pretty much what the status quo looks like at the moment. Now, if nobody else has any other questions or anything to add, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Janice and Jeffrey.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Council members, we move on now to item number 10, presentations, and we have no presentations this evening. To receive and file the council information package, item number 11, we don't have any items brought forward for consideration at this time. Item 12 is recommendations from standing committees. We have 2. Item 12.1, Committee of the Whole Workshop Minutes of March 15th, 2021, and item 12.2, Committee of the Whole Minutes of March 22nd, 2021. Do members have any comments?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell and seconded by Councillor Timmers that council approve the following recommendations from standing committee. Committee of the Whole Workshop Minutes of March 15th, 2021. Committee of the Whole Minutes of March 22nd, 2021. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries. Thank you.
Councilors, item number 13 is notice of motion, which requires a 2/3 vote. So we'll do that first, Madam Clerk.
No, Madam Mayor, that was introduced already. We're now on to the notice of motion itself for consideration, and then we'll vote after.
All right, we're considering item 13.1, which is a notice of motion brought forward by Councillor McPherson and endorsed by Councillor Miklick. This was first introduced at special council on March the 8th and is now before us for consideration. Before we begin, however, the CAO would like to provide some comments. And then Councillor McPherson will speak to the motion. Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and just some brief comments as I know over the last month that this, I think this motion has, I'm going to suggest, I think it created some questions, it's created some opportunities for clarification. And I know that even as recent as today, I was working closely with the mover, Councillor McPherson, but as well as Victoria, for instance, and what happens in Vineland really kind of nestles against both wards 3 and 4, working closely with Councillor Timmers, Councillor Reimer as well, just to make sure that any questions, any points of clarification that they had were also addressed. So I think the motion that you see in front of you and one that our clerk's going to put on the screen probably differs than the one you would have seen about a month ago. And I'm going to suggest that I think the areas where it differs slightly is just contextual in nature. You'll see the subject line really focuses on Vineland redevelopment in its totality. And then we speak about both the King Street and Victoria Avenue corridors. And you'll see that kind of throughout the motion. We've also removed a date. There was an April 12th date, but considering where we're at in the process right now, we thought that removing the April 12th date and simply highlighting this as something that staff can report back on at a future committee of the whole meeting was probably an appropriate step. A little bit about King Street and Victoria, and you'll see those referenced and I think laid out a lot more. Council will recall we presented to you a number of months ago, probably about a year ago, if not more, a similar exercise that staff undertook for Ontario Street, where we looked at that kind of entire both King Street corridor, but as well Ontario Street, really from north to south, and really took a visioning exercise. I know Matt Bruder and Monica and their teams together with the region walked the entire corridor, looked at opportunities, looked at what sort of urban design could be implemented in these particular areas, and really were and I think what this motion does is validate something that we had envisioned always occurring in Vineland and in the King and Victoria Street corridors. So again, I think you'll see highlighted in this report, us really spell out both King and Victoria as important elements. We know Victoria is a big contributor to what's going to happen in that central business district in that downtown. And of course, King Street and the work that's going on at the region is something we're going to have and we do have a close eye and a great relationship with. So it's something we're going to keep our eye on. And like I said, Victoria and some of the elements around the visioning work we want to do there is also going to be a big contributor. So those are my comments. It does look different. I thought it important for me to highlight that for members of council. Did spend time today working, as I said, with Councillor Timmers, Councillor Reimer, and of course, the mover in Councillor McPherson. So those are my comments, Madam Mayor, and I'll turn it back to council.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. CAO. We'll move on now to the mover, who is Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me, and thank you, Mike, for that. Those comments and that clarification. Excuse me, I appreciate the input from my council colleagues to make this the best motion we can put forward. So, Madam Mayor, I just have some comments around the motion. So the motion before you, I just want to get out of this screen. So the motion before you brings to the forefront the works and focus we all hear about and that needs to be placed in Vineland, and specifically the King Street and Victoria Avenue corridor. The motion is recommending that council direct staff to report back on work that they will be undertaking to create a vision and plan that over time will shape the public realm for downtown Vineland and beyond. A plan that would create the feeling of place we want for all of our downtowns that we know
is currently lacking in Vineland. An urban design master plan fits for downtown Vineland and the entire corridor. As we know, with the 2006 downtown Vineland secondary plan now blended into our official plan, and the design plans the region is currently working on for reconstruction of King Street from Vinehaven Trail to 23rd Street, developing a plan for the public realm piece will enhance that work by making downtown Vineland and further north down Victoria Avenue corridor a place we can all be proud of 10 or 15 years down the road. The plan can lay out expectations for connectivity, seeing sidewalks facilitating walking for residents of Brookside, Caroline Court, all the way down to Vinehaven Trail and all points in between. Possibly a public green space on the northwest corner of King Street and Victoria Avenue where people can gather to enjoy a coffee and socialize with their families and neighbors. Plans for parking in the downtown mapped out. Hydro wires buried and poles removed, replaced by street lamps with hanging flower baskets in the summer, and of course, lights at Christmas time. Sidewalks wide enough to accommodate outdoor cafes. These are but a few of the many public realm goals that we can include in this plan. We have as our CIO mentioned, we have a similar plan in process brought forward by Mayor Easton for Ontario Street Corridor in Beamsville. A report is expected coming forward to council soon on that plan. I do know staff had this item for Vineland on their work plan to hopefully begin this year. I'm happy about that. And in many ways, this motion validates that and ensures council is involved and receives updates. Councilor Mikulik and I had a Vineland resident on our recent virtual call a couple of weeks ago make comment that she would be happy to step in to participate. We know our residents and merchants are wanting a more vibrant place that sees people out of their cars, spending time shopping, walking, socializing, and enjoying Vineland. Those are my comments, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm looking for any comments from anyone else, possibly who was involved in the authoring of this. Madam Clerk, I don't see any hands up.
I do have Councillor Regima's hand raised, followed by Councillor Timmers and Councillor Mikulik. So we'll start with Councillor Regima.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. I was willing to let Councillor Timmers speak first if she wanted, because I know that she's one of the councillors in this area for the wards, the 2 wards that this pertains to. But I'll go ahead. I have a couple of questions. First of all, congratulations on this. I think it's great. I think it's a really good idea to be establishing a vision for the area and making it clear what our expectations are and what we really want the area to look like. So that's great. I love the idea. So my questions are, will this vision, will it include items such as density? And will there be a public process? And so 3 little questions. Will it and could potentially change the density that's established for the area? Will there be a public process? And do we foresee hiring a consultant to assist with this?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Regima. Who would you like to direct your question to?
Let's say planning, Mr. Bruder.
The CIO had his hand up, and then we can go to Matt Bruder.
I'll let Mr. Bruder, through you, Madam Mayor, I'll let Matt speak to it.
Okay, Mr. Bruder, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, no, this isn't really intended to change any densities or anything that's happening in that regard with respect to the land uses. What it's supposed to do is, it's supposed to look at the area in totality. A lot of it, like Councillor McPherson said, is to do with the public realm, what can be done. in terms of some improvements, improving some connectivity to adjacent communities, things like that. And in recognition that there already has been some work done in this area in terms of, there is a community improvement plan for the central business district area, more or less. There is an older secondary plan, which a lot of work was done, and it's kind of, and as well as the regional design work to date. So it's more of just a master plan that brings all these ingredients together and looks at further opportunities as we proceed over time, as redevelopment occurs. So there's no intention to change, land uses or density or things like that through this directly. In terms of a public process, for sure. I mean, it's something we'd be bringing forward the council as well in multiple occasions as we go through the process, but definitely something that we would look to the public for input on. Absolutely.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor, one more question that was in there that I didn't hear an answer to, and that's, do we foresee hiring a consultant for this, or will we be doing the work ourselves in concert with the region?
Oh, sure, Your Worship. Sorry, my apologies, I didn't touch base on that, but we probably, so we would do some initial work with the region to try to help scope this a little bit further. Like I said, we're just talking about this now. We need to drill down a little bit more on it, but definitely a possibility that a consultant could become involved, yes.
Okay. So again, I think it's a great idea. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. I do have some comments to make this evening related to this motion. And I'll begin thanking our CAO and staff for clarifying a lot of information and questions regarding the Vineland improvements. First off, I want to acknowledge that the councillor from Ward 3 moving the motion did reach out to me to discuss the motion after the fact. I do appreciate that. However, reaching out prior and including the Ward 4 councillors of Vineland initially would have been appreciated to gain our input, as we are actively involved with the residents in that area and have been for a number of years. Victoria Avenue in downtown Vineland, as we all know, straddles Ward 4 and Ward 3. We can all agree that Vineland needs investment. It needs both the redevelopment of King Street and Victoria Avenue that the region is already planning. These are both regional roads. It also needs private sector investment, more commercial and residential options that will increase the overall look and feel of Vineland, making it a vibrant corridor and a place to shop and live. I know much of what is included in this motion was already on the staff's work plan as it pertains to the revisioning of Vineland. I very much support this work and the improvements that are coming soon. I do, however, question the need for this motion, as opposed to perhaps just a staff update would have been sufficient. So I look forward to the other comments from the rest of council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Timmers. Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just some comments. I think Vineland is it's a unique little community there. It serves the community well. There's just about everything you could want, or need within walking distance. It's been in transition throughout the years. I think that having a proper or like a proper master sort of plan would be beneficial, because it would attract investors, stakeholders. They want to know that it's going to be consistent. They want to know what's in the future. Change makes some nervous. Having a consistent plan or having a vision, an organized, structured vision, I think would be beneficial. Pardon me? I think it'd be beneficial, and it would result in future investments and having that consistency. I spoke earlier during the ward meeting. I see Vineland as like a connect the dots sort of community where you see something, but you don't quite see what it is until you bring those dots closer, connect the dots, and then add some color to it. And then that's when you get to see what it can really truly be. So I think that's what we're trying to do here. And hopefully we can move forward with this. Thank you very much.
you very much. Madam Clerk, could you please tell me who is next?
Councillor Reimer is up next, Madam Mayor.
Hello, Councillor Reimer. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I just want to comment on two specific items. I think that this motion addressed that I think are key, not to underestimate or downplay the rest of them, but I think there's two key areas here for myself anyways. This motion accommodates private sector interest and involvement and gives them some guidance and support. I think Vineland has a lot of potential, and I think long term the support and the importance we give to the private sector, I think that's the key to success, initially and long term, that they have buy-in and that they see there's opportunity to invest there. The other item would be that that Vineland is two main corridors really. Victoria and King Street are both identified in this motion. They are major connecting routes and will be major connecting routes when the Peninsula Corridor is established. It will take some weight off it, but I see in the future there's a high amount of regional traffic that comes through Victoria Avenue, and it's a major link for the rest of Lincoln as well too. It connects our two larger communities below the escarpment. So I think there's a lot of potential in Vineland, and I like the way this motion addresses them. Thank you, Mayor Easton.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Brunei.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just a couple of comments and maybe a couple of questions to staff. So I think anytime as a council that we can be talking about vibrant and thriving downtowns, whether it's in Vineland or whether it's in Jordan or Beamsville or Camden, I think is important. We all want to see vibrant downtowns, whether it's the central business district or the entire corridor. These are regional roads, but we want to make sure we're at the table along with investors and the business owners that have to be partners and have skin in the game as we move forward. I'm really happy to see the changes that have been made to the motion. Quite frankly, coming into tonight, I couldn't have supported the motion with the April 12th date on it. I think when we talk about an urban visioning and a master plan, that in my mind anyway talks about a long runway and considerable time that we're going to need. And I think, Madam Mayor, I think you mentioned in an email a couple of weeks ago that possibly, we're talking, terms of council. We're not talking 1 or 2 years. We're talking terms of council to make some of these things come to fruition. And I couldn't agree more. We got to start somewhere. Through you, Madam Mayor, possibly either to the CAO or to the Director of Planning. My question is, we're in a pandemic. We know that we have an aggressive work plan as an organization, as a municipality. And I'm wondering through you, Madam Mayor, to either the Director of Planning or the CAO, if they could talk, we've obviously experienced delays, not only in our municipality, but across the entire region because of COVID. The region has had to put things back burner and delays. I'm wondering, through you, Madam Mayor, if the CA could comment on kind of the frame that he sees this type of motion moving forward.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor Brunei. Mr. Kirkopoulos, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and I will. I'll definitely make some comments, and then Matt can explain a little bit of the process in terms of what actually happens once we issue an RFP and work with the region and engage them, because we do have a little bit of a model to look at when we think of what's happened with Ontario Street, and that's taken us, I think, to Councillor Brunei's point. That's taken us well over a year, if not a few years, to kind of get to where we're at. I think the first part of the motion, through you, Madam Mayor, to council, really speaks to coming back and laying out, okay, what is the process? What's involved in an actual visioning exercise like we endeavor here? What's involved in this kind of urban design visioning work? And I think we can do that in fairly short order. But the actual work itself, is going to take a lot longer. And again, in some ways, we are also at the at the privy of the region. The region definitely has delayed a number of projects. None of the major construction projects, but a lot of the policy type work. It's great to see that they're engaged in this one, because I know within the Ontario Street context, they know that that's forthcoming. And I know we have talked to them on this particular item as well. So they know these things are forthcoming. It definitely, you're right, we do have a very aggressive work plan with council. This needs to get slotted in there. I know it was something Matt was looking at doing with his team and Kathleen before that, probably later in the year, definitely a Q2 start. But I'll see if Mr. Bruder has anything to add to that.
Thanks, Mike. So yeah, just building off that a little, I mean, as you're all aware, we are looking at Ontario Street. We have been for a little while. That's something that we have been moving forward with some staff at the region, just to kind of jointly develop an RFP to scope that undertaking in determining what we look at there. This is a natural progression from that. I would say, we're going to look at some similar trends for sure. There's a little bit different pieces to the puzzle here with this one than the last one that we will be looking to scope out as we develop the RFP for this one as we move forward. So, looking at some of the work, as I referenced before, that's already been done in the area. Some of that work now is, multiple years old. We can look at, if there's an opportunity to enhance some of that work done to date. And then looking out over the longer term too. I mean, when I talk about some of the works that the region's done with their design work, it's great. And there's been a lot of headway made, and it's going to be a very effective design. But there's other factors to consider as development occurs over time too, that could open other doors. And we want to make sure that we're looking at that as well. So these are kind of the things we're going to be considering as we go forward, and we'll have more information to present once we've undertaken that kind of initial scoping exercise, of course, jointly with the region.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruder. Councilor Brunet?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. One further question. So Councillor McPherson even alluded to it in his prelude when he was talking about the motion, and he mentioned that our CAO on his email to council on Monday, March the 8th, when this motion was being brought to that meeting on March the 8th, that similar to the work that was happening in Beamsville, that this work was currently already in motion. That our staff was working in conjunction with regional staff to move this along. We've heard this a number of times. So to Councillor Timmer's point, I'm just wondering through you, Madam Mayor, if the CAO, and my comments are in no way, shape or form, in support of this motion or trying to defeat this motion. It's just a general comment so that we can understand, really the intent of this motion. I'm not really one that supports just putting a motion out there for the sake of putting a motion out there. And I think I've said that in the past. But the conversation that we're having tonight is very important. We all want to be talking about vibrant downtown. But through you, Madam Mayor, I'm wondering if the CAO could comment to just enhance Councillor Timmer's comments, because I feel that way myself. What is this motion really doing that if, as a council, we didn't direct our CAO or the Director of Planning to come back with regular updates as they evolve on a timely basis, as they evolve with the region under the normal process? I'm just trying to understand what this motion is really achieving through you, Madam Mayor, to the CAO or the Director of Planning, that a direction to the CAO for those reports to come back on a timely fashion wouldn't achieve. I'd like to see hear the CAO's comments on that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Mr. Kirkopoulos.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the council and to all members of council. I think in hearing both those comments, there's, you're right. I'll validate that this has always been on our work plan for this year. I think there's a number of things that we envision in a given year, and sometimes resources and a whole bunch of other issues sometimes or often get in the way. We have a global pandemic that we're dealing with right now, and definitely that does occupy our time. I think reporting back was something inevitably we were always going to do. And I think in a lot of ways, that direction to do so would also have been beneficial. I often think with motions like this, there are times where either those in the development industry, those in the business community often like to hear what council has to say or like to see where council has provided some of their direction. And I think, what this does, I mean, it definitely adds that political lens to some, corporate public work that we were already undertaking. So it shows council is committed to it. It helps us, I think, focus, where's council sit on this if we're ever asked. And again, sometimes we do have business interests that come to us and say, where does council think of X or what does council think of Y? So I would say, I think that's what this achieves. The actual mechanics of us reporting back, Councillor Brunet, I think you're correct, and Councillor Timmers before that, in that, we would have been doing that anyways, and a lot of this work we would have been undertaking. But I think what the motion does is provides that political, I think, support for the work that we're undertaking. So hopefully I've answered that question.
All right, Councillor Brunet, does that help you?
Yes, it does, Madam Mayor. And can I ask, I have one final question, a third question, if I could ask?
Go ahead.
It's a kind of a question, kind of a comment. So in preparation for tonight's meeting over the last couple of weeks, I've gone on the internet and tried to look at, urban design visions and framework that municipalities have used across the country. One of the common denominators that I saw, not in every one, but frequently, was the idea of an engagement of the entire community and using, a workshop to make sure that, all the stakeholders are brought together so that it's not just the region's vision, it's not just the business owners, it's the entire community. And through you, Madam Mayor, I'm wondering if maybe the Director of Planning could comment on that to ensure that that is a lens that we look at as we move forward.
All right, Mr. Bruder.
Thanks, Your Worship, and absolutely couldn't agree more. It's one of those things, it affects just about everybody in the community. When we'd go forward with something like this, obviously bringing our expertise to the table, but at the same time, I could see it going through some type of, design charrette process or something like that. Not all that different in some ways from what was done in the earlier stages of the Prudhoe secondary plan. Different situation, of course, but I think that level of communication and of consultation with the public is going to be essential, and we want to make sure we capture some of what the people that are actually, that are living day in and day out in the community want to see and what their expectations could be. So yeah, definitely something we would include for sure.
If I could, Madam Mayor, I mean, one of the things I think just to speak to that Mr. Bruder, Deanne and I were chatting about is really the use of Speak Up Lincoln as potentially a tool to ensure that information does get out there and that we actually communicate on it and engage on it. So definitely something on our radar, Councillor Brunet, but great to hear it brought up again.
Okay, that's a good connection as well. Councillor Brunet, are you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Question to Mr. Kirkopoulos and Mr. Bruder. They've touched on a little bit. Previously, on a previous council that I was part of, we created a secondary plan for downtown Vineland and Jordan Village that we spent, $250,000 on. So, and it talked about what it was going to look like. So how is this visioning exercise different from that secondary plan?
Mr. Bruder?
Thanks, Your Worship. It differs a little bit. I mean, that secondary plan for sure is a critical component to this. Absolutely, it's something we would draw on. And as was stated earlier, it was completed in 2006. It was updated again a little bit when the latest official plan was consolidated. A lot of work to date, absolutely. But this takes it a bit further. The secondary plan looks at, things like some of the land uses, looks at some of the private realm, looks at public realm as well. But we want to take this a little bit further too, and we want to look at how we link that all together in the community, maybe even going a little bit further in terms of some of the things that have evolved lately. I'm thinking active transportation and complete streets. From the time, that secondary plan was completed, there's been some progression in that regard. And we also want to make sure we're carrying it on. We mentioned the Victoria Avenue corridor as well. We want to, have a similar type transition, a seamless vision, if you will, that all work and function together. So I think it's just taking a lot of those ingredients and creating a master plan that builds off of that, and maybe provides some additional opportunities, looking out a little bit further into the future, knowing now what we didn't know even as close as just a few years ago with respect to development trends and how things are progressing. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does through you, your worship. Yeah, that's good to hear, because, you can't have a static document and not improve on it. So I'd like to hear about the updated complete streets look, the active transportation lens that we're looking through. Hopefully, with the adaptation of the climate adaptation plan, we'll also be using that lens to look through this in the visioning exercise as things come to the forefront. So, okay, that's great. So we probably identified some deficiencies from that plan, and we'll be making upgrades as we move forward, correct? Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Madam Clerk, is Councillor Timmers next?
Councillor Timmers is next.
Go ahead, Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mary Sten, for letting me speak again. I wanted to hear the comments from the rest of council. When this motion first came forward, there was some confusion around what's the downtown, what's the corridor. And I do appreciate our CAO and Director of Planning helping and consulting with me today. And this new motion, I feel a lot more happy with the way it's written and the intent behind it. I'd like to ask either Councillor McPherson or Councillor Mikulik that, in actually truly working together on this effort, that one of the Ward 4 councillors be added to the motion now that we've had input as a seconder. Thank you.
All right, we'll have Madam Clerk deal with that when we get down a little closer, but thank you very much for that, Councillor Timmers. And Councillor, I'm just looking, Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just to the councillor's request there, that in fact was offered to the Ward 4 councillors going back 3 weeks ago when I reached out to them. So we would welcome that Ward 4 is the seconder on this motion. And to speak to Councillor Renee's comments, absolutely, Councillor, that this is about engagement of the public in Lincoln, not just in the Vineland area. This is a effort. The spirit of this motion is to engage the public in what they see as a vision for downtown Vineland. This is not a political move just to get our name out there on what the region is doing. This is a town of Lincoln generated plan that will enhance both what we have currently got in our official plan that is coming from the old 2006 downtown Vineland secondary plan, and also what the region's got in what they're planning to do. So that is absolutely a focus for this motion. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, I would like the Deputy Mayor to take the chair. I have comments and questions.
Go ahead, Mary Sten.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. There's a few things about this, a few opportunities here that I just want to get some clarification on. I think they're opportunities anyway. In the village of Jordan, we essentially had one person who was the primary property owner of anything in the public realm. And I think in many ways there's a benefit to that, particularly if you have a person who's really looking for an outstanding end result. We certainly got that, and we have a very good plan in place. It's going to get even better. When you look at Vineland, the secondary plan that was done, it wasn't, it didn't have a great deal of excitement to it, in my opinion. But it probably was the best that could be done at the time, because we didn't really have the comparators with Jordan Village. It's moved along so well. And we've evolved also as councils over the last 12 or so years. And so when I look at Vineland now, here we are in this, not a dissimilar situation where we have one person who owns quite a bit of property and is very, very interested in doing something quite outstanding. So it really is very encouraging to have willing partners in this. But we can't really do much if we exclude Prudhoms and the tying Prudhoms, and that was done when the Prudhoms secondary plan was done. That whole corridor, Victoria, the North Service Road up through Jordan and back along King Street, that was talked about at great lengths during that public process. And so we've talked a little bit about, you know, the density and the public processes, but these are all policies that we already have in place. So we don't really have to begin from you know, we're beginning from a place of strength in that regard. However, the Prudhoms commercial and economic balance with the Jordan commercial and the Vineland commercial, and for that matter, the Beamsville commercial, is something that I believe that we should spend some time on. And so that's my first question. And I don't know, I'm going to go to you, Mr. CAO, just to begin this, because I think that it's time now to tie all this together. If we don't, then we will be dealing with these items piecemeal. What would your advice be in that area?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to the mayor's question, specifically on kind of that tie-in. I think from a staff perspective, we've always envisioned that broader connectivity. I think we're trying to look at things at a 60,000 foot level, definitely going much more granular and looking at individual projects and individual efforts. But I think we're always trying to look at, you know, what are we doing in one part of town that impacts another part of town? What are we doing in one neighborhood or one subdivision that impacts what happens in other larger corridors, or whether it be just how traffic moves or how a development moves or how a park is utilized. And so I think we've always envisioned what happens down at Prudhoms, definitely on the commercial side. And we've often talked about, you know, everything from grocery stores to what is located in each area and what that connecting point is. So from a staff perspective, definitely on our radar. I think when we look at any of the reports that we're going to bring back on this particular kind of King Street and Victoria corridor, but even beyond that, it will definitely play into, I think, you know, the overall vision that both council expects us as staff to have and to bring to you, but as well that the community expects. And so, you know, when you have a development like Prudhoms, it's going to increase, you know, the size of our community by anywhere from, you know, 25 to 35%. That's going to have a huge impact. It's going to have a huge impact on how people shop, how people travel, where they go. And so again, what we want to build and attract in downtown Vineland is going to be important to that. So we definitely see it that way. I mean, you know, if the question is, you know, our staff keeping an eye on that, we are. And so if there's an ability or a need to reassure council, we are looking at it holistically. We are definitely.
Okay, that's very helpful, Deputy Mayor. So I guess the point that I want to make is that the process and the visioning exercise. The process was deliberately intended by the council as part of, or the staff as part of the work plan. And the visioning exercise is something that we are not unfamiliar with. And so through you, Deputy Mayor, to the CAO, would you consider making a complete list of any decisions or appendices in the form of any associated policies, master plans, visioning exercises, anything at all that we, that the staff would be using? It'll be, I think, a good update for council to know the extent to which there is a massive consultation process that goes back quite a long ways. I think it would be very important for the public to see that there's a great deal of information that's been given consideration. I don't know what kind of work is involved in that. However, through you, Deputy Mayor, Mr. Kirkopoulos, what do you think about such an idea?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to the mayor's question, I mean, I think naturally part of the scope of work that we would undertake, or the scoping exercise that I think we endeavor and hope to bring back to council, I'm going to suggest would look at and include all the relevant, policies, documents, master plans that are already in place. And so, I'll look to, I'll look to my planning colleagues to either tell me I'm right or wrong in that. But my thought would be in the scoping exercises that I've been a part of and that I've seen, and we're doing it from everything from some of the finance projects we're working on to others. Inclusive in those would be the existing policies that we are either utilizing or adhering to as a result of the work we're undertaking. So we can definitely include that. It'd be something we'd need to have anyways.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Anything else, Mary?
Yes, I do have my third thing. Really, I just want to bring some clarity to the issue around Beamsville. Beamsville doesn't have a beneficiary, if you will, one person or one group that's interested in King or Ontario, and therefore the concern still exists that there may be a variety of developers that are looking to accumulate property and to look at certain developments in that area. We're also going through a zoning bylaw amendment or a review of the zoning bylaw, and therefore the question that I have is really around how can we best serve the public if it turns out that there are a variety, say there's 4 or 5 developments that might come forward in the next 6 or 8 months, while these other things are not completely decided. What impact would that have on the public commentary, the public discussion?
Would you like to direct that to Mary?
Well, I think I'll start with Mr. Bruder because he seems to be having a bit of a rest. So I think he's the best person. Thank you.
Matt?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, great question, Your Worship. As a matter of fact, there is a lot happening, or a lot of concepts that could come to fruition. Maybe they don't, but just because we're going through a zoning exercise doesn't mean we still can't best serve the public. There's a process that still needs to be followed, where we do have some very, in my opinion, effective urban design guidelines that must be adhered to. We crack down a little bit more in the urban areas, in the core and the central business districts. So, I don't think it's one of those situations where we don't have an effective framework. We do. It just can always be improved upon. And, like I say, a lot of this work that we're undertaking to date, some of the updates and visioning exercises that we're seeing is more about just recognizing the continual trend and evolution of development as it occurs, and some of the, like I say, some of the trends that we're seeing. But rest assured, there still is a process in place, and a public process where we can assure that we obtain and make sure that public interests are well represented during the process.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, That being the case, and the case being and has been presented that the work that's outlined in this motion would have come forward very soon as the normal course of events. So let me ask, what would be the normal course of events for the Beamsville project? And I don't want to be creating points of order, Deputy Mayor. However, since this is all on the table now, it would be good just to get that clarity and then we can move on. Thank you very much if you would tolerate that.
Yes, yes, Mayor Easton, who would like to comment on that?
I can, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Matt.
No problem. So with respect to the Ontario Street, and I think, Your Worship, you're referring to the visioning exercise we're looking at for that, right, in Beamsville? And then, yeah, so our course of events now is we want to develop along in conjunction with the region. We're going through a scoping exercise still for there too, or finalizing one. And following that, that's when we get into developing an RFP and involving a consultant, and then initiating the formal process, which would include multiple consultation points with the public. So that's kind of the natural course of events. Now the next stage is issuing the RFP for that, building upon some of the earlier work that we did, and then looking to collaborate with the region on an effective design and effective visioning concepts moving forward there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm back in the seat, Madam Clerk. And we're moving on now to, let me just see here.
So we have the motion. I can put it up on the screen so everybody can follow. I just need to ask you, Madam Mayor, if I could just interject, as we've had Councillor Miklick offer to remove himself as a seconder to involve another Ward 4 councillor, which was Councillor Timmers. So Councillor Miklick, are you fine with that?
I'm good with that. If that will move this motion forward, I'm good with that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for being so cooperative and gracious. All right, Madam Clerk, I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Timmers. You're going to put it up on the board.
I am. Just give me one moment. Can you see that?
Yeah, pretty well.
Okay, so we'll just change the seconded by, and I'll amend that when we do publish this to reflect Councillor Timmers as the seconder.
Okay. All right, now, councillors, I'm not clear as to how much time you've had to review this. Madam Clerk, did all councillors see this before the meeting?
Some council members did. I received it late myself. So this is what we shared during this discussion. And so council has seen it on the screen prior to this being introduced.
Okay, so why don't we just take a few moments? I want to make sure that everybody's had a chance to read it. So
sure,
just go ahead.
Would you like me to read it out, Madam Mayor?
You can, yes.
Whereas creating vibrant urban areas and downtowns is a key priority for this term of council, and whereas council adopted a priority strategic plan to create a Lincoln that is a welcoming community through improved social and economic inclusion, identified in the need for investment into urban areas, including our downtowns. And whereas the municipality has received numerous comments and concerns from residents of wards 3 and 4 regarding the state of downtown Vineland. And whereas the regional municipality of Niagara is currently undertaking a detailed design for the redevelopment of King Street in Vineland, currently scheduled to be started in 2023. And whereas opportunities to redevelop, enhance the urban area of Vineland, including the downtown to accommodate private sector investment with vibrant commercial and residential development is desired. And whereas the official plan identifies the Vineland Central Business District as a location where a diverse mix of commercial, residential, cultural, and social uses to enhance business and commercial activities in the town exists, with Victoria Avenue being a vital contributor corridor. And whereas an urban design vision and master plan is a specific tool to establish a guiding vision for the anticipated growth and intensification along the downtown portion of King Street, along with Victoria Avenue corridor, including within the Vineland Central Business District. This main artery requires long-term strategy plans to not only consider future growth and a range of land uses, but also to develop a cohesive and attractive streetscape identity that welcomes visitors and appeals to local residents. As such, it has the potential to become a complete street where a greater mix of uses and intensification could be accommodated along this significant corridor. Therefore, be it resolved that staff will prepare and report back to a future committee of the whole meeting outlining the steps necessary to move forward with an urban design vision and master plan for Vineland, and specifically the King Street and Victoria Avenue corridors in collaboration with regional staff.
All right, thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, we'll call the vote.
Thank you. So this has been moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Timmers. Councillor Brunet?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miklik?
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
Yes.
Councillor Rajima?
Yes.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
Mary Easton?
Support.
And that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Thank you, councillors. We're now considering item 13.2 under notice of motion brought forward from Councillor Pachariva. This is an introductory notice of motion regarding climate change adaptation plan and crisis, and will be considered at the next scheduled council meeting. Councillor Pachariva, would you like to provide introductory remarks with respect to this item?
Sure, Your Worship. At the last committee of the whole last week, we received the climate adaptation plan. And one of the things that in the plan that council can do is to declare a climate emergency. And we're going to change, look at, we don't want my vice chairman, Councillor Reimer, and myself, along with staff, are working together to come up with the proper verbiage, whether that be crisis. But again, we're going to work with staff and the people at Brock and come up with a motion that keeps the intent of the plan and bring that forward. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Council, the consideration will be given at an upcoming scheduled council meeting on April 19th, 2021. Move on now to item number 14, the 14.1 being the mayor's report. And then I believe I'm looking, and I believe that Councillor Foster, Regional Council, Councillor Foster is still with us as well. Good evening, Lincoln, and welcome to the March 29th meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council. Over the past year, there have been less opportunities to gather as members of the federal, provincial, and local governments in Niagara. It's quite understandable, as in Lincoln, we've been applying for many grants and staff have been coaching and supporting local businesses as they make key adjustments to how they conduct their business. It's all very challenging, and it requires a strong and reliable support network at all levels of government. In the coming days and weeks, I hope to share some more good news on grants the town has been successful in securing. Today, I met with Lord Mayor Betty Vicero of Niagara-on-the-Lake and Mayor Jim Diodati of Niagara Falls, with MPP Sam Oosterhoff, Premier Doug Ford, Finance Minister Minister Bethlyn Falvey and Minister McLeod, who many of you have met, as she's a frequent visitor here in her role as Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture. We met over just an hour under COVID-19 separate rules and we wore masks. I was pleased to have Director of Economic Development, Paul Giuliani, accompany me. The key question under discussion related to how the province can continue to rebuild and protect the economy of Niagara. The mayors understand the importance of the economy of a strong provincial team that's active in our communities, understands the issues, and is willing to provide financial support and incentives. In 2021, 200 million has been committed already to stabilize and protect jobs. We have all experienced the benefit of communities building their local culture and economy and contributing to the wide range of natural and business opportunities for visitors. And more than ever, we need to continue to also create a safe environment while following the public health rules of the province and the region. Now, of that 200 million, 100 million is new and a one-time support recovery to tourism, hospitality, and small business support. And 100 million is for new and one-time recovery. Both grants are part of the 2021 Budget Ontario Action Plan, protecting people's health and our economy, our economic recovery. The province has committed a total of 625 million since the start of the pandemic. And I'm not here to advertise what the government has been up to, but I can assure you, and we all share, that Lincoln has been very, very busy ensuring that as much of that money as we possibly can is coming into this town, and also contributing wherever we can to those initiatives that are Niagara focused as well. Lincoln has one of the most diverse economies in Niagara with over 50 wineries. The wineries are receiving 7.5 million. Cideries, 1.8 million. And small batch beer will also benefit from direct sales at farmers markets across the province this summer. Distillers received 0.8 million. You can see that we're being well covered in our town. Many small and medium-sized family farms are positively impacted by the growing contracts for tree fruits, apricots, peaches, apples, bushberries, and they create a large number of local jobs and supply food and beverage to the hotels. And so part of the discussion today was with the hoteliers that were in attendance and the plans that they have in Niagara Falls to build more hotels and to look at different levels of programming. We were also able to see the progress that has been made with the cultural changes that have taken place with the heritage hydro buildings being turned into public realm spaces, and it's going to be very, very exciting. We agreed that investing in the marketing of our region is extremely important to everyone's long-term success. The Premier actually said that we need to market the daylights out of Niagara, and he was happy to be contributing money to that. We were generous in our thanks to the Premier and the ministers present, as well as MPP Sam Oosterhoff, whose diligence brings the Premier and the Minister on frequent trips to the Niagara region. We haven't been overlooked by this minister. Minister McLeod also set out a strategy for tourism and export development and the associated performance measurements, and she's placed a $5.3 million purse on research and innovation and development initiatives. Our floral industry has had a very successful export market even during pandemic, and it will be directly and positively impacted through these recovery initiatives. New this summer, and we're going to hear more about this tomorrow, will be the sale of 100% Ontario wine and eligible spirits at farmers markets. This should increase increased production with greater availability locally, as well as better LCBO access for the VQA brand. And so for those farmers that were having difficulty last year with their contracts due to issues of demand and the closure of restaurants and hotels, we hope that things will improve considerably. Now, you know, and many of you participated, that since 2017, the Town of Lincoln Council has joined the Wine Council and the Grape Growers of Ontario in provincial delegations to bring messages regarding the limiting factors that they face with taxes on VQA products. And local councillors, our regional councillors, Councillor Foster has certainly been very active, singularly and with us in a group, and our town staff. We've all been very vigilant in sending the message that the taxes are directly hindering the provincial economy, definitely hindering the local economy, and specifically we spoke to our plight of Niagara-on-the-Lake and West St. Catharines in those delegations. And as a result of that, there will be announcements made tomorrow by Minister MacLeod. We're working together with local growers to improve production growth and COVID recovery. These supports have a direct impact on family farm operations and the Shop Local initiatives. And the hoteliers spoke today about the fact that they are also family businesses, not conglomerates, but family businesses that have grown over, in some cases, 4 and 5 generations. The 2021 Budget Ontario Action Plan will provide $100 million in one-time payments of $10,000 to $20,000 to eligible small businesses. And you can be sure that Lincoln staff will be on the ground with those businesses to ensure they can compete with the rest of the province. COVID-19 continues to challenge our economy and the general well-being of individuals and families. And we know that we need to actively pursue every plan for recovery and to ensure they are successfully implemented throughout the recovery as it progresses. Please continue to shop local and follow the recovery plan for social distancing, for hand sanitizing, and the wearing of masks. Vaccinations are increasing in their supply. Clinics are expanding as the age access points increase. Order and patience remain two important elements to keep the third wave of growth under control. I'm encouraged by the strength and conviction of my colleagues and the continued support of the federal and provincial governments. I'm encouraged by the stamina in our community and the innovation and willingness of business to adjust and pivot, and their ability to accept change and to fight it with the support of expert help. Remember, you live in Lincoln, where everyone tries to be a good neighbor, where children are encouraged to achieve their very best, where adults and community leaders continue to set the best example for our youth. Stay healthy, help your neighbors, build a story into every day for the children in your neighborhood. And thank you for inviting us into your home this evening. I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachuriva and seconded by Councillor Brunet that Council receive and file as information the Mayor's report on March 29th, 2021. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Brunet.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachuriva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
Carries.
We're now considering item 14.2, Regional Councillor Update. Councillor Foster, please.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. A number of things just going to brush by this evening from that's been going on with council, etc. Just I wanted to point out, Councillor Rajima missed this earlier. The West Niagara regional councillors are working with the Chambers of Commerce. We're doing a town hall meeting on April the 7th. It's going from 12:30 to 1:30. And that is going to be on the topic of restarting Niagara West. The ECDev officer from the region of Niagara, as well as Mr. Deanny and the economic development people from Grimsby and West Lincoln are going to be on the call. And a number of items are going to be brought up to talk about where things are going from an economic development point of view. As well as there will be a time for questions coming back in and through to those particular people. Anyway, that's along with Councillor Furtick and Councillor Witteveen. Council highlights from last week. I don't know how Mayor Easton thinks about it. It was not one of the better council meetings that we've had this term of council. It seemed to go on forever on the topic of Ramsar. Which, if any of you have done any research on it, is essentially saying, when it's all said and done, that the Niagara River is an especially important waterway within the world environment, let alone Ontario and let alone within Niagara. So led to an awful lot of discussion. But the other minutes that we were working with, I don't know if any of you have been involved with it, but the Waste Management Planning Steering Committee is being discontinued at the region. In the public health side of things, there was a motion put forward respecting Niagara's agriculture sector and temporary foreign workers that came out of that. As well, Councillor Sendzik pushed a motion as well to have teachers considered higher in priority. Anyway, that was discussed. Corporate services, we had a surplus came through at the end of the year. Like a lot of municipalities, the end of the year dollars that came from the provincial government for COVID information or for COVID monies came in. So we had to divide out where that was going. Just to let you guys know, I always took great pride in the town of Lincoln with the fact that we had reserves that were well looked after. The regions, particularly the rate stabilization / operational stabilization fund, is not as well stocked as that within the town of Lincoln, or has been in the town of Lincoln. So anyway, for whatever reason, that's been pushed back to corporate services. So we're going to take another look at where those figures are going to be going to. Planning, a couple of really interesting things came up. There was an employment lands application that came through in the city of St. Catharines. It had to do with the properties out on 4th Avenue. It had to deal with properties down in by the Heddle shipyards as well. And these were recommendations coming from the city of St. Catharines to have the appropriate zoning and the continuation of the zoning that was there in most places going on. And also the Glendale District Plan, there was really no discussion at council about it. That was passed through as well. And by the way, the Glendale District is going to be one of the major development areas. I know we think Prudhome's is a big one, but the Glendale one is probably the biggest development area that's going to be going on within Niagara region over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. So anyway, there was a first pass through of that. We spent time on the mask bylaw. To let you guys know, the decision, the mask bylaw actually comes to an end April the 1st in Niagara. But the thing is that we decided we were going to extend out for a couple of more months with it, even though the provincial regulations cover it off completely. But we didn't want to add confusion to anybody. Because you know how the headlines would be, oh, Niagara has done away with their mask bylaw. Well, we haven't done away with anything. So anyway, the decision was to extend the mask bylaw, and it will be extended until the provincial regulations come off. That's my prediction. And I have a notice of motion that we didn't get to at the council meeting regarding broken and damaged recycling bins. I think I talked to you guys about this before. In the budget process, we went through and passed a reduction in costs on that, putting the onus back on homeowners on damaged or broken recycling bins, and I think that was a mistake. So anyway, we'll be discussing that in much more fulsome way at our next council meeting that will be coming up in April. Just to let you know, I'm on the CAO recruitment committee, and we have got a third party that we are now working with, and our next meeting for that committee is April the 6th. So that's moving along. There's also a special council meeting that's been called for this Wednesday. We don't have special council meetings all that often. This one is on a series of things, but it's all in closed session. So I can't really talk about it, but just suffice to say that there is a special council meeting coming up. And that is my report for you guys this evening.
All right, thank you very much, Councillor. And I'll ask now, councillors, are there any questions of Councillor Foster? All right, there being none, I have a motion. Where is it? I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Benjima that council receive and file as information Regional Councillor Foster's update on March 29th, 2021. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Brunei.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mary Easton.
Forward.
And that carries.
Thank you very much. We're now considering.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. We're now considering item 14.3, Fire Chief Greg Hudson regarding a letter of intent for the Fire Safety Grant Program for the town of Lincoln. Chief Hudson.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to announce that town of Lincoln received confirmation of a grant from the Ontario government's Fire Safety Grant Program to help offset some of the challenges that fire departments have faced during this COVID. So we received $10,400 to put towards our firefighter training and fire inspection programs. One of the stipulations of the program is that council pass a resolution authorizing the fire chief to sign the documents to receive the money and to direct the fire chief to apply those funds to the eligible expenses, i.e. the fire training programs and the fire inspection program. So I bring before you a suggested resolution for your consideration to allow us to receive the funds for the grant. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
All right, any questions? I think that Chief Hudson was looking for an opportunity to become part of the grant game. So well done. Well done, Chief Hudson. Any questions on this matter? Councillor Russell.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to the clerk, do you need a mover for a motion on this, Madam Clerk?
We have one. We have a mover and a seconder. We have Councillor Brunei moving it and seconded by Councillor McPherson.
Sounds good.
That's great. We were just looking for questions. Anyone else? Okay, that's great. Madam Clerk, go ahead. I'll just repeat it again. I have a motion moved by Councillor Brunei, seconded by Councillor McPherson, that council authorize and direct the fire chief to sign and execute fire safety grant transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario, as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal, to receive eligible funding from the Fire Safety Grant Program of Ontario, and that council direct the fire chief to apply funds received from the Fire Safety Grant Program to the purchase of technology upgrades to support firefighter training and virtual safety inspection programs in Lincoln. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Brunei.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Counselor Rajima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries.
Councillors, we'll move on now to item 15, which is confidential items. And we'll consider item 15.1, motion to consider confidential items. And before we do that, we'll move into closed session before I read that motion. First, we're going to have a closed session statement that the clerk will go through for all of council, and staff will be attending the closed session. Once that's completed, we'll move on with the motion to move into closed. The clerk will be turning off the live webcast during the closed portion of the meeting. Once we've completed the closed portion of the meeting, we will resume with the live webcast and carry on with the public portion of the meeting, and we'll read the motions in public session. I will ask the clerk to conduct the closed session statement for all of council and others attending the closed session. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. All members are reminded that any discussions in closed are to remain confidential as per our procedural bylaw and our code of conduct for the Council of the Town of Lincoln. Before we begin, I need each member that is attending electronically to confirm the following: that you understand that matters are to remain confidential, and confirm no one else is present with you, and confirm that no one can hear this closed session. Confirm that you are not using any electronic devices other than your tablet, computer, telephone for the video conferencing, and confirm that you are not recording this portion of the meeting. If you acknowledge all of the above, please reply with "I understand," confirm to all of the statements as I read your name aloud, beginning with Mayor Easton.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Councillor Rajima.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Russell.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Brunei.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Pachariva.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor McPherson.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Councillor Miklik.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
And Councillor Timmers.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Reimer.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. And I'll begin with staff. CAO Mike Kirkopoulos.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Finance, Administration, and Innovation, Lawrence Wagner.
I understand and confirm to all of these statements.
Director of Economic Development and Communications, Paul Deaney.
Understand and confirm to all the statements.
Director of Special Projects, Kathleen Dale.
Stand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Planning and Development, Matt Bruder.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Public Works, Dave Graham.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Community Services, Shannon McKay.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Deputy Clerk, Devan Kripp.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
And I, the Town Clerk, confirm to all of the statements. And our Town Solicitor, Tom Helinski of Erden Berlis.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Russell. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that council adjourned to closed session in order to address item 15.1 as follows. Item 15.1, pursuant to the Municipal Act, Section 239, subsection 2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board as it pertains to acquisition of land. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thanks. Councillor Brunei.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries. Give me one moment while we move into closed.